Hello, everybody. This is How Is the Name with Ramblings episode 4. One more than 3, one less than 5. We're going to be talking about a few things. Um, Current situation of the world, current situation of gaming, and everything else. I actually was just going to talk about COVID-19, and then I was like, what am I doing right now? And I'm trying to grind for a Valorant key. And by grind, I mean I just have streams open trying to get a Valorant drop because the only way you can get a Valorant drop get into the closed beta for this game called Valorant is if you watch streams for it, and all my other friends have keys and they're playing the game right now except me. So I've just had streams open 24/7. My room's gotten to like 85 degrees, I'm pretty sure, because my PC has been non-stop on for the past 2 days, just watching streams. And I'm just very unlucky. I'm just very unlucky in this situation. What can I do? So I have Classify stream open right now. Uh, I have the tab muted, not the stream, the tab muted. So same outcome, but I count as a viewer. Let's see, that game seems fun. I think I'm gonna slap a lot of people. The movement in the game is very similar to Counter Strike, and my movement in Counter Strike is okay. So I think I'm gonna be just all right and slap most people that have the game already. So I feel good about it. Um, yeah, let's get into like COVID-19. So I'm really just like I don't care to talk about like the technical aspect of like is there a cure on the way? Like symptoms can be shortened or it can be remedied with like this type of experimental drug or these combination of drugs. I don't care for that. I'm more concerned about like the growing pessimism in the country. Like it's very. Here's the thing. I think I've talked about this before. Maybe I haven't. Like humans are naturally pessimistic, and that's because we're the only species that can improve upon our situation. But how can we improve upon things if we don't know where we can improve upon? So therefore, we need pessimism so we can see the flaws and we can improve. And yeah, so we can just see the flaws, and that's fine. Everyone has pessimism. It's just built into us. But the thing is, people are like accepting all these objective negatives and sometimes subjective negatives, which we'll get into in a second. And I'm like, you shouldn't do that because you don't have most people. They don't have the mental willpower to like not let those negatives overwhelm them. And like that's just an objective thing. If you're surrounded constantly, you surround yourself with negative things and negative people, you're just gonna be a negative person. That's the outcome. Um, so they're just like surrounding themselves only with the negatives. They want this. It seems to me they want this situation in the world to get worse, or at least in the U.S. And I'm not sure if that's a political thing, uh, or if that's just like a vendetta against current society in the U.S. I'm not sure why, but they're negative Nancy about it all, and they seem to be welcoming the negatives. So it's like I see people tweeting about like the death toll. I see people tweeting about like how terrible the administration is handling it, and a lot of it's projecting like they want them to fail. So it's like how bad they're doing right now. Ha ha, it's only gonna get worse for me. Ha ha. I'm like, come on, that's not a good thing. I'm not sure why you would want that as a person in this country or just a human in the world. Why you would want an administration of any country to do worse or it just seems bad. It just seems bad. Uh, But yeah, those are some people. But then like there's no more people who just like they just pick up the facts or the truths that they hear around them. They don't go out seeking negatives. They just run into the negatives. And for those people, I think they're being drawn an unfair picture because there are a lot of objective positives in any situation, just as much as there are objective negatives. So it's like whenever you're not getting a good mix of both of those things, you're just hurting yourself because you're not getting a fair uh, representation of it. So you're like, well, what can be an objective positive about what's going on? Well, I'm like, okay, well, as a whole, it's just, I mean, it could be a lot worse. It could be a lot worse. Relatively speaking, it could, like, there were models predicting millions of deaths in the US by the time it's all over. I don't think we're going to get there. I think administration said it could be at most like 500,000, but the other one was saying like millions, like 2 million or something like that. So obviously that's an objectively good thing. It was projected for 2 million. Now it's projected for 500,000. That's just an objectively good thing to look at. That's just an objectively good fact. There's nothing you can't spin that any other way. You're supposed to lose 2 million. You only lost 500,000. only speaking. I feel like Stalin. One death is a tragedy. A thousand is a statistic. I swear I'm not crazy, or I swear I'm not a psychopath or some sociopathic killer, uh, or some dictator. I'm not. I'm just saying. um, but yeah, like that's an objectively good thing. But then you can take it to the households. Let's say you have a family, right? Bob, Sally, Joe. All right, Bob and Sally are the mom and dad. Joe's the son. Let's do that. I'll totally remember these names throughout this entire example because this actually happened to a friend of mine. So I'm just projecting, or I'm just translating it over to names. Let's say Bob, which is the dad, gets coronavirus. Sally and Joe, they don't know about it at all. Okay. Um, they don't figure out that Bob has coronavirus until they've been around each other for like a week straight, and then and then Joe spends all his time helping his dad, Bob, get better or try to get better, feeding him, cooking for him, uh, helping him do all these basic tasks. And Sally's also trying to help, but obviously it's like you want to have limited contact. But it's like, how do you not already have the virus if you were in contact with them for a week already? Stuff like that. Eventually Bob gets transferred to the hospital. The father gets transferred to the hospital. So now Sally and Joe are at their house. And the thing is they were in contact with a highly contagious person because this disease is highly contagious. For a week straight, without knowing it, and then a week after that, while knowing it. And you're like, by all means, you should 1000% get infected with it. You should have it at this point. You should definitely be carrying it, and you should have it by all means, 1000%. But they don't. And then so you start talking with Joe, the son, and you're like, "Hey, Joe, what's the situation? Or like, how are you doing? How's your family doing?" And he's just focused on the negative. My dad's in the hospital. He has corona, or my dad has corona confirmed. He's in the hospital. I'm like, wow, that's terrible. How are you and your mom? He doesn't care. He doesn't care. He ignores that question. He's hyper focused on his father in the hospital. Well, it's like, okay, well, like the objective negative here is your dad has corona, is in the hospital. The objective positive here is you and your mom should by all means be in the hospital with him, also sick, also with this contagious, horrible virus. But you're not. That's the objective good. That's the objective positive. But the thing is Joe is hyper focused on the negative because he doesn't care about himself. He cares about his dad. His dad's his best friend, and all this stuff, and he just doesn't care to see the positive. And like, you and your mother should be sick as well, but you just focus on your dad who's sick. And like, I understand that you're focused on what can be improved, but at the same time, you need to acknowledge the good and that you and your mom also do not need to be improved in this situation. At least if you don't care about yourself, you should at least carry the same weight with your mom as you did your father. So it's like, if you care so much about your father being sick, you should care that much about your mom not being sick, something like that. So it's like, that's just, so we took it at the large scale of the countrywide statistic deaths, and then we took it to a very small scale of like household to household, the objective positives and negatives. So it's like, that's just an example of it. Another objective, or not even another objective negative, what you might think is objective isn't objective. So like, there was an objective negative I saw yesterday as well. It was like the US has passed Italy in most deaths for COVID-19. And I was like, damn, that sounds pretty bad because Italy is a very at-risk nation. The majority of their population is elderly. So it's like, obviously if it starts spreading over there, they're pretty much screwed. So it's like, if we pass them, that says a lot about us. Like, that says a lot about how bad it is over here if we were able to pass Italy, who are all at risk. And then I started looking into like how they came to that number, because like I said, I'm all for objective negatives as long as you have a good mix. But first I want to verify it's objective negative and not like a subjective negative of like someone else saying it's negative but it's not really negative because they skewed whatever they're saying or what they're looking at. So first I gotta verify the objectivity of that. So I'm like, okay, who's claiming this? So I read the article, the CDC. I'm like, okay, CDC is pretty cool. Or like, I think I think they're pretty objective. So then I'm like, okay, how how did the CDC get to this number? And then I like look through it, and they say they go off of death certificates. So I'm like, okay, that's fine, death certificates, okay, that's objective enough. But then I like look at, and then I while I'm reading that, I see another link that's like how the CDC is skewing the COVID-19 counts. I'm like, that's probably some conspiracy. So, but I read it anyway, just to like, I skim it, and they say death certificates themselves are not objective. They're very not lackadaisical, but they're very uncertain about a lot of things. And then it's just this lady. It's like a 20-minute video explaining how death certificates are made and how she's been making them for 30 years as a in the health industry. And she was explaining like, yeah. So for example, if your neighbor were to die, your sibling were to die, or for in my let's see, with my example, if my father dropped dead right now, and they come, the police come and they're like, what happened? I'm like, he had a heart attack, or I think he had a heart attack. If I just say I think he had a heart attack and he died, I mean they're gonna take that at face value, and eventually at the end of the day, when they get to the death certificate, the whoever in charge of that, they're gonna say cause of death, heart attack. There's no way of knowing. I mean, yeah, they could do tests on him, but at the end of the day, it's just like they're taking my word for it when I have no sort of medical history training. And you're like, hey, that's far fetched. That would never happen. False. That's actually an example she used. Son, like father dies, son, not diagnoses him like at the death. It's just what the father's asked the son, and the son just guessed like he had this pre-existing condition, and that's probably what killed him right now. I used that, and so went all the way to the top, all the way to the death certificate, and that was his official cause of death because the guy got cremated. There's no other way you can check it, so because he's cremated. And it's just things like that. Like for example, if you die with COVID-19, let's say you died of something completely separate, but you had COVID-19, right? You had COVID-19 in your body at the time, and you died from something else. They're gonna 99% of the time they're going to list your death from COVID-19. That's what they're gonna say it was. And like that's not right. I think all death certificates, or I think COVID-19 deaths, the statistic itself that's being reported nationwide, should be those people who directly died from COVID-19, not those that died because of COVID-19 taking their resources, not those that died because they had symptoms of COVID-19. Like even if you have a positive COVID-19 test, like you're tested positive for it, technically you could still not have it. So, and you're like, well, okay, Hayden, well then what's the official number? Who knows what the official number is? Or like, not the official number, the real number. Who knows what the real number is? God. Maybe God knows. Probably, God probably knows. But I'm like, the official number is pretty skewed when I was looking into it. Because there's been a very sharp, very sharp decline in heart attack related deaths and also cancer related deaths around the time that there's a really sharp increase in COVID-19 deaths. So why is COVID-19, why are less people dying from cancer and heart attacks around this time? It makes you wonder. It really makes you wonder. But yeah, so like that's a pretty skewed statistic of like total deaths. It's not a conspiracy. It's just, that's just an objective thing. It's like, you look at the article that says like more deaths in Italy. Okay, where's that go to? CDC. Okay, where's that go to? Death certificates. Okay, how do you make a death certificate? Okay, the process of making a death certificate is flawed fundamentally. Well, then all the way to the front of the original statement saying Italy has less deaths than the U.S. That's a flawed. That's a subjective negative because now that's not objective anymore. That's not a truthful statement. It's not a factual statement because we don't know how many people are actually dying from COVID-19 because we're not doing proper. Our evaluation of it is improper. It's very improper. It's very, you could say lackadaisical. I guess you could say that. Everyone that dies has COVID-19 is what they're trying to say. Everyone that's dying at all in general has COVID-19. They're trying to write everything off as it. Very weird. They're trying to inflate it for whatever reason. I mean, maybe if one county, state has a very inflated number, maybe they're going to get more resources, probably. Like, I'm sure if New York, New York's getting a lot of resources. So, yeah, maybe that's the reason why they're inflating numbers. But yeah, people are eating this negative stuff up, which are making them negative people. Like on my timeline, I see a lot of negativity. Just to be negative, they just want to see bad things happen. I'm like, okay, that's pretty, uh, yeah, that's pretty screwed up, but whatever. Yeah, that's what I want to talk about. There's a lot of positives in the world. There's usually positive, uh, objective positives in any situation when you look at the wider picture. Uh, and even when you look at a refined picture, like I took the family, the household, Bob, Sally, Joe, for example. Uh, there was an objective there were some objective positives in that. So yeah, that's what I want to make a video about. Try to spread positivity, man. If you're gonna be looking at the objective negatives a lot, throw in some positives. And if you're gonna be looking at positives, get a reality check and look at the negatives. Like you gotta see both sides of it. Like humans are naturally pessimistic, so you gotta combat that. You can't let yourself get lowered to being a pessimistic, negative person, because that does no good for anybody, you know. So yeah, have a good day. Stay safe. I don't know what I'm gonna make another one about these. These just pop into my head when I make a ramblings. I have no clue. My hair is very long. Maybe next time you see me, I'll be completely homeless looking. If this thing doesn't end soon. Yeah. Goodbye. Bye bye. YouTube. We'll see you later.